There we go. My name is Gay Kahn, and I'm one of the constituency assistants in the office of MLA Doug Bing. Also here with me today is my colleague Cheryl Ashley, who is the other CA in the office. MLA Doug Bing is out of town and was really sorry not to have been able to attend the workshop. As the MLA for Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows, Dr. Bing really appreciates and acknowledges the important work of nonprofits, such as the ones you represent in our community. You provide services, support, and opportunities to our citizens, enriching their lives and making this a great place to live. So we thank you for that. The Societies Act is new legislation that was passed in the spring of 2015 and will come into effect on November 28, 2016. It governs how societies, not-for-profit corporations, are created and run in BC and includes significant updates to allow for more flexibility in how societies operate while still protecting the public interest. The new Societies Act brings in opportunity to file online, and registries and online services is in the process of developing a new online electronic system to support and enhance society filing requirements. A leader at the registries and online services for over 20 years, Debbie Turner, where's Debbie?
I'm right here.
Right there. Sorry, we all just met 2 seconds ago. Has been the deputy register at registries for the past 4.5 years. She is responsible for the corporate registry, personal property registry, and the manufactured home registry. And currently she is also the project director for the Societies Act, responsible for developing the new online service being built for the new Societies Act. Trained as a lawyer, Jill Sinkwell has worked in policy development for the Ministry of Finance for nearly 25 years. She has been involved in revisions of major pieces of legislation, including the Strata Property Act and Business Corporations Act, and has spent the past 6 years focused on developing a new Societies Act. Also trained as a lawyer, Tona Hetherington has worked in the policy development for the Ministry of Finance for over 20 years. She has been involved in revisions of major pieces of legislation, including the Securities Transfer Act and the Business Corporations Act, and has spent the past 6 years focused on developing a new Societies Act. So I'm going to turn this over now to these ladies to make their presentation. We're also attempting to record this so that it will be available to you, and we will provide a link for that. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for coming out from Victoria today to present for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can everybody hear me with this mic? Oh, good, because it's over here, and so I don't want to have to sound like this for a while. It will be a bit uncomfortable. So just let me know if I'm veering off and you can't hear me. So thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for coming this afternoon. It's a lovely afternoon out there, and you may rather be out enjoying the weather, but really appreciate you taking the time to come and receive some information on the new Societies Act. We're going to ask that you save your questions to the end of the presentation, and the reason is because we find that quite often your questions will be answered as we move through the presentation. But there'll be lots of time at the end for us to answer your questions. The presentation will take about 45 minutes. We do have handouts at the end for you. So you will be able to walk away with some information that will help assist you with transitioning to the new Societies Act. And I should say that while we're going to be presenting you with general information about the new Act, and the transition process, we'll give you some scenarios, but we won't be providing legal advice. If you need legal advice, we would recommend that you contact a lawyer, read the legislation, but this isn't intended to be legal advice. It's just to give you some information about the new Societies Act. So why a new Societies Act? So the existing Societies Act was passed in 1977, and there's been very few updates since. The new legislation is written in a more straightforward way, and the day-to-day organizational provisions that you need to know about are in the first 85 sections of the Act. The Act provides more flexibility. Societies will have more internal governance options that will determine their own membership structure and the method of communication with members, as well as for holding meetings outside the province, to name a few. The New Societies Act introduces a new type of act called a new type of society called a member-funded society, and Jill will go through what a member-funded society is, as well as it will provide for an electronic filing system, and that's what I will talk to you about later. So what I'm going to do at this point is momentarily turn it over to Jill. And as Gay was mentioning, Jill and Tona both were very influential in writing the legislation. So who better to talk to you about the different pieces of the Act that you're going to be interested in. A date to remember, again, as Gay mentioned, November 28th, 2016, which from my perspective now is coming in full force. It's coming very quickly. But keep in mind that you do have 2 years after that date to transition to the new Act. Jill will talk to you about the transition. She'll talk to you about the member funded, and then I'll come back and give you an overview of what the new system looks like and some background on the work that BC Registries has been doing in order to prepare for the Act. So over to you, Jill.
Thanks, Debbie. Let me know if you can't hear me because it's kind of weird sounding from my perspective. So we have transition and what it is. And I'm here with a good message for you all because a lot of societies we've talked to over the months, they're a little bit freaked out about transition and what this is going to entail for them. And I'm here to kind of calm you down and make you feel really good about this whole new act and what you have to do. Because transition is actually a very basic process. You file an electronic version of your constitution and bylaws. You all have a constitution and bylaws right now. You'll file them electronically. In some cases, you'll have to make a few small changes to those documents. And then you have one decision to make, and that's whether or not to be member funded. So I'm just going to unpack this a bit and talk to you about basic transition. This is your plain vanilla ice cream type of transition. It really involves only 4 steps. The first is you enter your society's name and purposes into your new constitution. Right now, many societies have other things in their name and purposes in their constitution. They have other provisions in there. There may be a provision saying that the directors can't be remunerated. There may be a provision that's saying that if the society winds up, any assets it has go to another society. All of those provisions, they can't be in the Constitution anymore because under the new Act, the Constitution consists only of the name and the purposes. So those provisions have to be moved into your bylaws. You will then have to take get a consolidated set of your bylaws. You may have passed your first set of bylaws in 1974. And then since then, you've periodically updated those bylaws by passing and filing special resolutions at the corporate registry, which maybe change this provision and maybe change that provision. But you may never have created a consolidated set of your bylaws. Well, now's the time because you're going to be required to upload a consolidated set that shows that original set of bylaws and then includes any amendments you've made, and then also includes these other provisions that I just mentioned that might be in your Constitution that you've moved out. If any of those provisions from your Constitution were unalterable, they will, under the new Act, become capable of being alteration, but they still have to be marked as having been previously unalterable because they have a sort of a special status. The other aspect of basic transition, 1, 2, and 3, these are just administrative things. You could get somebody that can do data processing. An administrative person could just go and do this. There's no decision making. You just take your bylaws as they are and your purposes as they are. There's no changing anything. You just do what the 1, 2, and 3 instruct you to do, and you're there. The other thing you have to do if you want the basic plain vanilla type of transition is you have to not choose to become a member-funded society. So as long as you're not going to become a member-funded society and you've got somebody that can, do data processing, type things into a Word document, you're going to be good to go. Transition is probably something that's going to take you about 15 minutes. Now, the big thing is not opting to be a member-funded society. So I just want to spend a couple of slides talking to you about what a member-funded society is. Basically, it's a society that exists it's funded primarily by its members in order to provide services or do things for its members. It's inward-looking. The classic examples that we see as member-funded societies, and we think these are real outliers, but they're things like yacht clubs or golf courses or that sort of thing, where you're not taking in any public money or fulfilling any social mandate. Most societies that we've spoken to are very interested in fulfilling a broader social mandate, and often they do take money when they can get it from government and public funding sources, and those would not be member-funded societies. The the advantage of being a member-funded society is that you would be subject, if you were to be one, to slightly less regulation. These are some examples of it. The big one is that you can freely distribute your assets to your own members on winding up. If ordinary societies, when they wind up, they have to give their money to another charity or society, or they can't just take the money themselves and go off with it. But a member-funded society could choose to do that and to distribute its assets to its own members. Those are the advantages, if you see them as advantages. The disadvantage is that, of course, if you have member-funded status, you might not get any public funding, even informal public funding. Like, I might be less likely to support you if you, on your, I don't know, fundraising drive or whatever, knowing that you are member-funded and that you can distribute the money as you see fit if you were to wind up, and that you're subject to less regulation. So it's kind of a trade-off. You may not be eligible to be a member-funded society in any event. You're not eligible if you are a charity or if you're one of these other specified types, and there's quite a few types that are specified. If you receive more than roughly $10,000 a year in government or public funding or public donations, you can't be one. And the other thing, and this one is really key, you can't be a member-funded society, even though you might otherwise be eligible for it, unless the members of your society want to designate themselves as member-funded. This is a big decision, and as I was saying, it might affect your future funding, the reality of your future funding. And you have to get approval by your members if you want to choose to become a member-funded society. The reason it's important is because there are some timing issues here, and that's why we have to raise it as part of the transition. Because on transition, you will be offered a box to tick if you want to become a member-funded society. And if you can't, of course, tick that box unless you have a special resolution and if you otherwise qualify. But if you choose not to tick the box, then you've got that plain type of the plain vanilla transition. But if you, just so that you know that if you don't tick the box, if you don't choose to be a member-funded society, you can still become one later on. But you will have to get a court order as well as that special resolution in order to approve your adopting that status. So if you think you might want to be a member-funded society, if you're not sure, you might want to wait until you do get some legal advice or figure out whether you really want to be one, because it's going to be easy to do on transition. It's going to be not so easy to do after transition. But just to recap the basic transition, it was just a matter of administratively putting those documents together. You're not going to tick the box to be a member-funded society. You don't have to have any meeting. You don't have to have any special resolution. This is something that the directors can do on their own because it's just the plain vanilla version. And you're not going to, if you are currently the recipient of gaming monies or charitable, a charitable status, you're not going to impair your eligibility for those, for that funding. And that status by just doing the transition. You're good to go. But if you choose to become a member-funded society, you will not be eligible for gaming grants. And you can't, of course, even contemplate becoming member-funded if you're a charity. So enough about that. I would suspect 90% of you are not even contemplating member-funded status. But again, if you are, you might want to get some advice on it. The other thing you can do if you want to trick up your transition, it's an opportunity to do some bylaw revisions. You know, I was saying, you know, you got a set of bylaws from 1974, and then you've got a pile of special resolutions that have amended those bylaws over the years. And you're not really, you know, it's a mess, let's face it. So you might choose to you know, clean up your bylaws at this time. You don't have to do this. And this takes you out of the plain vanilla version of transition if you decide to, because you have to have a special resolution. But it is an opportunity for you on transition to file new bylaws or amended bylaws. And we have identified some bylaw revisions that you might want to consider making in order to preserve the status quo for your society. The Society Act is a new act. It changes some things. These are 4 of big things that the Society Act changes that may, you might not like the direction the new Societies Act is taken, but you can, in your bylaws, kind of counteract those changes by putting in your own provisions. I'll go through them. Unusual terms of office. The Societies Act, the new one, says that if, you know, that directors are elected until the next AGM, and that's when their term of office ends. Some societies want to have 2-year terms. Some societies want to have staggered terms. You can have that, but you should amend your bylaws to provide for it, or otherwise the Act will, you know, say that your director's terms expire. Allowing for proxy voting. Some societies just allow casually for proxy voting. If you want to allow for proxy voting, you can. There are some rules saying proxies have to be in writing and so on, but you also have to provide for it in your bylaws. So you'll have to amend your bylaws to specifically say, yes, we allow proxy voting. Restricting borrowing is a big area of concern for many societies because right now, directors can't borrow money on behalf of the society without the members approving it by special resolution. The new Society Act removes that requirement, so directors have the freedom to, acting in the best interests of the society, make borrowing decisions. If the society wants to restrict the directors in making those decisions, they can pass a bylaw that says no borrowing without a special resolution. They could pass a bylaw that says no borrowing ever, if they wanted to, but they can prohibit or restrict the borrowing, but they'd have to do it by bylaw, or else the directors will be able to borrow. And the last one that we've noted here is changing the special the threshold for passing special resolutions. Right now it's at 75%, it's going to 2/3. Not a big difference, but could be significant in some societies. The new act, however, allows you to pick a higher threshold if you want to. So you could maintain the 75% threshold for some or all matters. You could even raise it up to 90% or up to unanimity if you think that you have something that you never want to have changed. We are removing the ability to have unalterable provisions. So one option to deal with the fact that those provisions have now or will become alterable is to say, okay, they're alterable, but you have to have a 99% or a unanimous vote in order to alter them. I just wanted to point out one of the handouts that you're going to get. We've got lovely handouts for you, and one of them is a transition guide. It talks a lot about member-funded and when you could qualify and what you want to consider. But it also has a page near the end that's a list of about 12 provisions that are changing that you may want to consider amending your bylaws to so you can maintain the status quo or better match what's in the Societies Act. And so I'd suggest you look those 12 over and say, yeah, can we live with that? Or no, we don't like that. Let's do a bylaw. Onward to what you can do now. If you're going to file a plain vanilla ice cream transition application, you can get everything ready. You can still do a few things now. You can't file this application until November 28th of this year, but you could start by creating your electronic version. You could get everything consolidated. You could relocate the provisions of your constitution so that when that time comes, and you have 2 years after that date, by the way, to transition, so you don't have to do it on November 28th or even this year, but you could get ready to do it by getting everything in order for filing. And of course you have to be update with your registry filings, your annual reports and that, because you won't be allowed to transition if you're not up to date. Now, if you want to add the chocolate sauce to the vanilla ice cream, you can get tricky. You can hold an annual general meeting, or I'm sorry, it doesn't have to be an annual general meeting, a general meeting. You can pass special resolutions. You need to do that if you want to authorize becoming a member-funded society. And you can also take this opportunity on transition to do something with your bylaws. If they're a total mess, you could just say, I don't even want to sort through this. Let's just adopt a whole new set of bylaws. You can look, a lot of people are looking at their constitution and bylaws for the first time in many years, and they're saying, hey, this doesn't really work, this is outdated. You can't change your purposes on transition. That's something you're going to have to wait until you transition. You can change them now before the new act comes in. You could always have done that. Or you can wait until you transition and then you can change them. But on transition, you can change your bylaws if you don't like them. And that's, you can fix other problems. You cannot, and I just want to stress this one again, if you have any unalterable provisions in your constitution that you're moving into your bylaws, that you're marking as having been previously unalterable, those can't be touched. But pretty well anything else can be touched, then you could adopt a whole new set if you want. And I think that concludes my part of this. And I'm going to turn it over now back to Debbie, who will tell you all about the joys that await you when you go to interact electronically with the corporate registry.
Okay. I'm just changing the mic. Okay. It just shouldn't be this hard. Okay, good. We're ready. Okay, thanks, Jill. Okay, so now I'm going to provide you with some information on the preparation that BC Registries has been doing in order to prepare and be ready for the new legislation. And then I'll give you a little overview of some of the screens that we have ready. As mentioned, we're still in the process of developing the system, so these aren't final screens. We're just in the process of finishing them, but it'll still give you a good idea of the way we're going. So far, we have had quite a few consultations with societies. We sent out an email back before the act, before the regulation was passed, giving the date of November the 28th to make sure that we wanted all societies to know early that this was coming. And so I'm hoping that you got that letter. After that, we sent out an email that said, the regulation is passed and here's the effective date. And most recently, we sent out another email saying that the transition guide was up there and encouraging you to go and have a look at it. So if you haven't been receiving correspondence from BC Registries, I encourage you to contact us and find out what mailing address you have for your registered office address and what email address you have on file with us, because if those are wrong, you're not going to get the notifications, and that's going to become a problem when we send out the onboarding letter that I'll tell you about in a few minutes. We did send out a survey also in November. I'm not sure if any of you had an opportunity to participate in it. BC Stats administered it, and there was over 35% response rate, which for surveys is actually really good. So that tells me that the societies are very interested and really want to contribute to the build, and that's exactly what we were looking for. So some of the information we got out of the survey, which was positive, was that most of the societies said that they have their documents in electronic format already. And that's good because, as Jill was saying, in order to transition to the new act, you're going to need to have the documentation in an electronic format, such as Word. Societies, many of them already file their annual reports, but we did find that there was a small percentage, though be it, of societies that were concerned about paying by credit card, and that's because quite often the society itself doesn't have a credit card and the director or whomever is completing the filing is using their personal credit card. So what we are doing is providing pre-authorized debit for societies to pay. And I would encourage you, if you want to go that route, to, when you go on to our system, get set up for the pre-authorized debit before you want to do any filings, because it will take a few days to go back and forth to the bank and get the approval. So you wouldn't want to come on needing to do a filing now and sign up for pre-authorized debit. You would have to do credit card or wait. So I would encourage you to do that, but it's really quite simple, and I think that that's going to help with, I know that a lot of your bylaws say that you need 2 directors to sign for things. And so 2 directors could sign this form that goes to the bank and allows for you to use this pre-authorized debit. Registries, as part of our consultation, has also sent out a communication to the banks and the credit unions. We've done this for 2 reasons. One, we want them to be aware that this pre-authorized debit is coming and to help you, move through the process. And we also wanted to prepare them for electronic certificates. We don't want you to go to the bank with electronic documents and them to say this isn't right, this isn't how it looks, and send you away and it's all confusion. So we have reached out to the banks and they are all aware of these changes, so that should be helpful. It was interesting too, though, I thought that many of the societies, one of the questions was, are your documents in good shape? It wasn't worded exactly like that, but that was kind of the gist of it. And it was kind of cute because a very high percentage said they were in good shape. And I thought, based on the phone calls we get, I don't think that's quite accurate. I think they were a little worried about Big Brother, checking on them to see if they were in good shape. And in fact, that wasn't at all what we were trying to do. What we were trying to do is get a feel for the transition package that we're offering as of August the 29th. You can go onto our website and order a certified copy of your Constitution, bylaws, and any amendments. And you would only want to do that if you are concerned that you don't have the most up-to-date filings and you think it would be helpful for you to transition. So we were really looking for a gauge to see how many staff and what kind of volume we could anticipate, but of course that didn't work out so well. But for the most part, the survey was good. We've done quite a bit of user acceptance testing with societies and incorporated their feedback into how they currently operate, and hopefully you'll see that. And there's a lot of information on our website. A lot of the handouts that Jill was talking about is on there. So yeah, and we're still in the process of building the system. So I'm going to go on now to the benefits of electronic filings. So of course it has improved access and usability by providing online filings, and there'll be no backlog, no waiting, and you won't need to pay a priority fee if you need something done sooner, because it's going to be instant at the end of the filing. Very few filings remain on paper. It's the low volume, more complicated filings such as a restoration, liquidator, really very low volume transactions, but all of your incorporation, the transition of course, annual reports, what we call maintenance filings, change of directors, change of office, is all going to be done online. So that's going to allow you to do this at home in the comfort. You can be in your pajamas and it's not going to matter. And you can do it in the evening after work, whenever it suits you. You'll be able to sit down and do it. Right now, some of you may be aware that some of our filings, unfortunately, are at 35 days. That's obviously, in moving forward, not going to be an issue. There's another you're going to receive a consolidated, what we're calling evergreen set of bylaws moving forward, and that's because, as Jill was mentioning, as part of the transition, you need to take all those special resolutions and bring them into having an up-to-date set of bylaws that you're going to upload into our system. And every time you amend the bylaws moving forward, you will upload the whole set, and that way you won't be going through all these special resolutions as you would do now to try to figure out what's in or what's out. You've got the complete set of bylaws. You'll be able to look back at the old set of bylaws to compare if you're concerned about, what changed and what date. We never change what was done in the past. It remains there. So we feel that it gives you much better access. And I'll also show you that we have developed a filing history, and all of the documents that you submit online will be in your society's dashboard. You can access them anytime, certified copies. It'll save search fees. You don't need to come to us. If you need proof of anything for the bank, you go onto your dashboard and print it off, and there you go. So we do think that this is a real positive move for the societies. Next, please. So onboarding, as I was mentioning, you will be receiving, I'm shooting to get this sent out the 1st of November, a letter that we're calling an onboarding letter. It's going to be mailed to the registered office address of the society. So again, critical that that address be correct or you're not going to get this letter, and we'll have no way of getting it to you. This letter is important because the letter is going to provide you with the URL, which is the website to get to the application. And it's going to provide you with a key for your society that you need in order to access the society. And it's also going to have you create an ID for the user, which is going to be the BCE ID. And I'll show you more about that also on the next screen. So here's the first screen that you would come to. I have a little thing here so that I can hold on. Point to what I'm talking about. I think. Oh, that's not going to show because of the bright lights, is it? I wonder. Nope. Okay, my arms aren't that long either, so anyways, I'll just try to be more descriptive with my words. We'll get there. Okay, so this is the screen that you would land on. And as you can see, you have two options at first. You either log in, and you'll only do that if you have a BCE ID already. I wouldn't imagine that most of you would already have a BCE ID, but if you do, then you would log in from here. And if you don't, then you get a BCE ID. And it's quite straightforward, and I'll show you now how that's going to look. Okay, so here you would it's quite straightforward. As I said, you just put in your surname, your first name, and then an email address that you would want to use for your BCE ID. And then you create a username and a password. Now, what's good about this is BCE ID is the authentication that government's going to be using for all eventually of our applications. So it'll get to where you can sign into any application with one user ID and one password, and you won't have to remember them. And that's nice because it's confusing to remember which one belongs to which application. We have worked with BCE ID to streamline the application and to have it seem as though it's part of our application and that you're not going off somewhere and coming back, which in fact you are because you're going off to BCE ID. But it is very straightforward. There's some, you confirm your password. It's not showing on here, but they will give you some security questions. I've asked them to update them because I don't know if you remember, but they'll ask you things now like, what was your locker number in grade 10? And I don't know about you, but I will never remember that. And so I said, could you please try to come up with something that people can remember? And I'm told that they've done that. So we'll see. But it should be quite simple and straightforward. So once you've done that, you only have to do it once. And just to be clear, the BCE ID is for you, the user. It's to authenticate you. So when you come back the next time and log in, and we'll go back. When you just log in, you will enter that user ID and password that you created, and you don't have to keep going back. You've got it for the next time. Excuse me. I should go that way. So in any case, when you come back, should only take you a couple of minutes. This is where you're going to enter the incorporation number or the business number of the society, along with the society key that we're going to provide you. And what this does is it affiliates you with your society. So this is giving you the ability now to administer the society. If more than one person normally works on a society, then you would have to share that key with the other person so that they can go in, get a BCE ID for themselves so that they are authenticated as a user. And then they will use the society key, and so they can also, if you both do things, When we've been out talking to the societies, most of them that I've spoken to have said they really only have one person that does all that. But just so you know, if you need more than one, you can have it. Now, another thing with this is, another thing that might be of surprise to you, is that there's a lot of infighting in societies. Yeah, I know it's shocking, but we could have a whole industry on this. They're phoning us on a regular basis about, you know, someone's doing something they shouldn't be, that meeting wasn't held right, what can we do, and on it goes. Where this will help with that is that currently, if anybody can mail anything in, right, and it's going to get filed. Here, if a member doesn't have the society key, then they're not going to be able to make a change. Because this is phase 1, it's not what I would consider slick. So if, for example, you needed to change the key, I'll show you where you can do that. But what happens is, when it's changed, it has to break all affiliations because we don't know why it's changed. And so, but you would be notified the society key changed, Jane changed it. So, you know, if you're supposed to have it, Jane's going to give it to you, right? But it would prevent Jim, who's no longer on the board or you don't want doing it, to be able to do it. So that's kind of the method. Releases, where we move forward, you're going to be able to go in there and manage that in a more, you know, a better way. But for now, this will serve the purpose. So the next screen, this is your dashboard that we've created for the societies, and this is my favorite part. I really, really, really like it because this gives you everything you need to know about your society. Currently, you don't know quite often whether or not your annual report's been filed. You don't know what registered office address we have on file or who the directors are. Well, here now you will. As you can see here, and this is where I love to have my pointer, but I'll manage. So you can see here that there's an annual report to be filed, the 2015 annual report that you'd be able to submit. In this case, it says that you transition your society, so that means they haven't been transitioned. It shows you the registered office address, the email address, as well as the directors. You would open that and it would show you all of the directors. From here, you can launch filing changes, whether it be you click where it says file a change, right in the middle there, or off to the left at the top where it's got your society's incorporation number, the business number. For those of you that don't know, that's the number issued by Canada Revenue Agency, as well as the status. Is it active? Is it in good standing, or what have you? All of those messages will be there. And then to the left is also other filings. And if you were an accountant, for example, or somebody that administered more than one society, page back from here, after you logged in, there would have been a list of all of your societies, and you could choose from there. So you don't have to affiliate yourself every time you come in. So you don't have to remember the key because you're affiliated. It knows that unless that key's been broken. And the other thing I should have mentioned is that it is a one-time key. So the first time that whomever goes on with it, you'll be asked to change it. So when you pass it on to someone else, you need to tell them the key that you've changed it, what you've changed it to. So let me just make sure. I think that's giving you everything about this dashboard. So on the next screen, I just want to show you how you would transition. It's quite straightforward, as Jill was saying. So in this scenario, you'd selected transition. So it says create your society's constitution. What will happen there is it'll come back with it'll look like a form, say constitution, the name of your society. Now that's not alterable. You can't touch it or change it upon transition. And then it will give you an opportunity to add the provisions, the purposes, not the provisions. And it will give you an opportunity to select whether you want to be member funded or not member funded. If you choose member funded, then a statement will come up and tell you what that means and such. So because that statement will appear on your constitution moving forward, and that will also appear in search. So anybody that's searching the society, the public, whomever will know that you're a member-funded society, because we thought it was important that people know when they're searching whether they're working with a member-funded society or not. Once that's done, you upload your bylaws, and that's really quite straightforward. You will have them in a Word document or some other form, and you simply just upload it. You can, we will provide you with help text. I don't have it all now, but there's many different formats. Everything common. The only thing you can't do is scan it and upload it, because that just doesn't work. You have to be able to compare later on the bylaws, and if it's scanned copies, we found it doesn't work. So the other thing you're going to want to do is confirm your director's and registered office address, and the key here is confirm, not an opportunity to change them. If they're not right, I would suggest that you leave and file a change in order to make them right before you transition. The work you've done will be held in a queue, so it's in a work queue for you. You won't have to start all over again by virtue of the fact, but it's because you're to be confirming them, you probably want them to be correct and not outdated. It is free to transition, but filing the change to the directors of the registered office is the filing fee appropriate for that. Once you've transitioned, you will receive outputs, again, in your notification in your filing history that show that you've transitioned, and you're good to go. Now, you have to be up to date. So as Jill was saying, if you're behind in an annual report, we're not going to allow you to transition. And the reason is because typically any director changes or registered office changes happen at an annual general meeting. And so if you're behind, you're not going to be transitioning the most recent information. It's not really helping you by allowing you to transition if you're behind. You can make filing changes, though, to your directors or your registered office, but if you wanted to amend your bylaws, amend your constitution, you have to transition first. So as Jill said, you can take 2 years to transition, and in many cases that will work fine. But you can't take 2 years to onboard, because you need to be onboarded to the system just to file your annual reports. Okay, so they're two very different things that get a little bit blurred because it's just a whole new concept. This new application that we're building is setting the groundwork for our other systems, such as corporate registry. I don't know if any of you ever file with corporate online, but it's very different than this. This is really a new design, and it gives you have a lot more at your fingertips than the corporations do. That's for sure. The searching public can't get here or look at this. They would still go to corporate search. They would still pay to get any copies of documents or to order a search. But this is what the societies and the staff will be able to see. Okay, and this is the filing history I was telling you about. So it shows there the notice of change of address, for example, when it was filed, who it was filed by, so whether it was us or the person who's logged in, the BCEID user, and then it shows you the documents. So those are all PDFs, they're certified copies, and you can open them and you can print them if you need to, and if you don't, that's fine too. Work that you've done to this point, annual reports, for example, that are available by link on our system now, will move forward here for you, so you'll be able to get those copies for no charge as well, even though they were filed before this new system. And as you can see to the left there, we've got that correcta filing, and that's kind of a cool thing. You'll be able to use that to correct your most recent. So quite often people do make a mistake. They'll do a typo or something like that. They'll be able to just correct it here online and get a new, what's called a statement of directors and registered office, which is the output that you get when you either incorporate or transition. So that's, you can also see, so the top left one says Society's dashboard. That's where we were. Society's notifications will simply be communications and messages that we want to send out. Filing history is this. And the manage the site access is where you would go to change that society key if you wanted to. And that's it. So as I say, I really encourage you to check our website. We're updating it all the time there's tons of FAQs. We've added FAQs. So far, we've been out and presented to over 600 societies all over the province. And when we get questions, we are making sure we get them up there because we figure the same questions will come from other people. And so we're really making an attempt to keep everybody up to date with where we're at in the process. So, and we do have a bookmark that we're going to give you that has this website on it. So, at this time, we'll turn it over to questions.
Before we start, I just want to mention before anybody leaves, they should get the package of materials. And it's kind of, it's in pieces, and every time we do this, we have more pieces, it seems. Someday maybe we'll do the whole book, but issues kind of come up. There is more on the website, as Debbie says, there's FAQs. There's also, you can access the legislation if you want to read it. Or you look at the standard bylaws that may be applicable to your society right now. But I just want to show you what you're going to take is this bookmark thing, but also the big guide about preparing for transition. It's got a lot of information in it. This is a kind of a history of how things have changed in the new act. Just kind of, it just kind of compares the existing act and the new act. And the thing that is not on the website is a brand new document that we've just created. We probably will be putting it up there soon. And it's a timeline that shows what you can do before November 28th, what happens on November 28th, what happens after and after you transition, and sets out some options for bylaw amendments. So those are coming around.
And the other thing I should have mentioned is there's a survey in there, and it's only 4 questions. And we're just circulating that so that we can get feedback on our presentation because we're always looking to improve and make sure that we're providing you with the information that you hoped that you would get. So please take the 2 seconds to fill that out. And now we can start questions. Right?
Yeah, I my own confusion, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think you mentioned that we should transition first before we change or maintain our current bylaw.
You,
So we have our AGM coming up.
right.
So I'm gonna change it.
Yes. Yeah. So you can do that now. Yeah. And where that gets a bit confusing, and I can understand why, is because so Jill is telling you you can change your bylaws now, but you have to have a special resolution, and then when you come on, you transition. And that is right. What I'm talking about is that after the new act comes into effect and you decide, oh, we want to change our bylaws, but we don't want to transition yet, you can't do that. Yeah. But you could hold the meeting, pass the proper resolutions, and change them at no additional charge upon transition if you hold the meeting.
But that means you do have to wait until transition to have your bylaws become effective.
Yeah.
It's becoming less of an issue, but we started doing these presentations back in May, and people were saying, well, we're having our meeting next week, and should we hold on to our bylaws till we transition our changes? Well, 6 months is a long time to be holding on to the bylaw changes. You can, but you're getting a little bit closer. You can file those changes on your transition. You can file them now under the old act, or you can file them on your transition. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is we don't want everybody to on board on day one because I'm scared the system will crash if, Yeah. Pardon me? I hope so. But I'm just saying, there's over 27,000 societies, so although I'm really wanting you to all get on there, not day one. Okay, so we got a question here, and then I'll go there. Yes. Yeah. Yes. 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 He would get it all as the registered office, because that's where we send it to. Yeah. Well, they want to keep doing it for you, right? So that's why they're, yeah. Oh, yeah. You certainly can. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to go to this lady over here first. 4. Whew.
So, you were talking in the school next about changing existing bylaws to maintain the status quo. And the specific example that you were talking about is if there was a change to the borrowing powers that you wanted to memorialize in your new bylaws. If it's already in your existing bylaws, does that just carry over? Yes, thank you. And you were talking about uploading evergreen bylaws, and it will present a whole new, your entirely new ones. Is the resolution you ask your members for regards to just the change, or is the resolution to replace in its entirety your whole new bylaws? What resolution do you ask for?
You're asking your members to resolve to change your bylaws, that you're going to update the whole new set.
Every single time you do a change, it's going to give you a whole
Whole new
set
set.
of evergreen bylaws. But is your resolution, if I'm only changing how many directors I have?
Just change that one,
So
resolve to change
the
that.
resolution is to change the directors, and it will do a whole set of bylaws.
You will do the whole set of bylaws.
I get that. Resolution
Yeah, the resolution,
for that one.
Yeah, you're not changing all of it. Can everybody hear that over here? The question is about what does the resolution have to say that's changing the bylaws if you're only changing a few sections of the bylaws, but yet you have to upload a whole new set. And what we're saying is the resolution simply has to reflect what you're changing. You're not changing everything. It doesn't have to give you permission to enter a whole new set. You have no choice but to enter a whole new set.
If you are changing 7 different things and you explain this to your members and say to your members, therefore we would like a resolution to replace the bylaws in their entirety with this new set,
Yep.
still do that?
Yep. And just to be clear, we don't receive the special resolution at registries, but we will have a radio button to say you indicate that you have it and the date of it. Okay, good. No. No.
You have to give the date.
But we ask we ask you to tell us it was passed and what the date is. Okay.
First question, if you have a BCID for a totally different organization,
Mm-hmm.
do you get a new BCID with your current nonprofit that you're working with?
No, you don't need to, but the trick is that for the Societies Act, we're using basic BCEID. So if you have more than a basic, you'll need the basic.
Oh, okay. And is the corporate address or the official address public? I know that you said that it's not public when you go on and see all that information, but is the actual official address public? We have a
Do you mean the registered office address?
We have a P.O. box, but the registered office is my home. Is that public?
It is public. It's public today.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, nothing's changed there. Okay, where was the next question? Right here?
If we're going to the removal of the clauses out of the Constitution that are not the purpose of the name of the society, do you need a special resolution to do that? Move them into your bylaws?
No, because you have to move them.
you have to.
Oh,
That,
I understand
Yeah.
that.
you don't need any resolution of any sort. You just do it.
That's part of the vanilla one Jill was talking about.
Seen as an administrative.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Good point.
The question is if you are moving provisions of your Constitution into your bylaws as required by the Act, and as I just explained, do you have to have a special resolution of members to approve that? And the answer is no, you don't need any special resolution if you're doing just the plain vanilla version of transition, which is to move that stuff. You just do it. The directors can do it, a director can do it on their own, his or her own.
Okay, yeah.
So, sorry, is it as simple as, ours is going to be pretty much the basic vanilla, and I see us probably changing some things that, the new bylaws, we don't want, we want to change them to reflect what we currently have, if that makes sense. So is it as simple as saying, okay, here's the old bylaws at our AGMs, here's the old one, here's the old set, here's the new set, this is what we're going to change to.
You're getting a resolution at your meeting to change your set of bylaws.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, and then that would be, you would upload that new set of bylaws.
Yeah.
It's just that you don't have to. You can take your bylaws, warts and all, and move them in, and then over the course of the ensuing months, you can, you know, in leisurely fashion, make the changes that you need to make.
It'll be November 28th, 2018 now.
If you do that, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And just to be clear too, I think everybody knows that after the 2 years, the registries may begin the dissolution process. So there is a penalty to not transitioning. So it can't go on indefinitely. So you do have that 2 years, and then we may send you a letter saying, need you to do that, or otherwise you're just not going to have a society. So keep that in mind. And the great thing about the dashboard is every time somebody signs on, it's going to be very clear that you haven't transitioned yet, and it's going to be prompting you that you need to. I know I'm asking for this kind of stuff, but that might be a bit too much, but it will be very clear. So I saw another question. Where?
Over here.
Oh, this lady. I saw this lady first, and then we'll go there.
So we incorporated recently, BC societies that made some changes, sent them to you, and have this set of bylaws. It says constitution, 2 lines, bylaws. Can we just upload that whole thing if we're happy?
Not quite. Jill?
No, you'll have to put your constitution in the constitution part of the online form, right? And just your name and your purposes. If you have nothing else in your constitution, you don't have any unalterables or alterables, so that's easy. You put them in the online form. If you've already got an electronic form, you can just cut and paste your purposes in. Then you will have to make an electronic form of just your bylaws. Okay, but you said you had constitution and bylaws in the same document. I just meant take the bylaw portion, put it in its own document, upload just that set into the portion of the online form that asks for your uploaded bylaws. So just separate the two.
Yep, that lady over in the blue was next. You, yep.
This is a very simple question, but just to quite understand it. When you're paying the fees, currently they use my credit card. But did you say I can't use my personal credit card anymore? I must have society?
No,
She didn't
no.
say you
So
have
this
to.
question is about the fees. When you pay the fees, this lady uses her personal credit card. Is it okay to continue to do so? Absolutely it is. What we found is some people don't want to do that. And if they don't want to do that, they can create the pre-authorized debit in order to pay. But you can continue to use your personal one if that's your choice. Okay, and here, yep.
Okay, a new society, the papers could go in
Yep.
within 3 or 4 days. Is there a basic outline, like I looked on, Constitution, and then Section 2, I think if you wanted to put that in as your bylaws without any changes, if it went, does that have to be transitioned? And if it is, do you have to download that Section 2 and then put it in, or what's the scoop on that?
I think maybe when is a Schedule B bylaws and you tick the box. Yeah. Right now, when you incorporate a society, you can tick a box and you can take Schedule B. When you go to transition after November 28th, you will have to, you can find Schedule B already on there, and you'll have to kind of take a copy of it, electronic copy of it, and upload it as part of your transition. But it's available right now to look at on the, and then if you did want to make any changes to it, you'd have to have a special resolution. But if you're just doing the plain vanilla one, you just take that Schedule B, but you can't rely on it being a tick box anymore. You're going to have to take the content of that, which is available, and upload it as your bylaw offering to the registry.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that if I wanted to, because I'm working on a tenure, it's going to cost me a couple $100 to register now, whereas if I waited another 2 months.
No. The fee's still the same. It's the transition that's free, not incorporation. So whether you pay to incorporate now or you pay to incorporate later, the fee's the same.
Well, priority.
Oh, well, yeah, it depends how much of a hurry you're in. Yeah.
It's got to be done by the end of the year.
Oh, well, then either way, it'll be done by the end of the year. We have to get the backlog done.
The tenure has a 140-day
Ah,
waiting thing, so
So you don't want to wait until after November 28th to incorporate. You don't have that choice.
No, I don't.
So,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
get it in as soon as possible. That would be good. Okay, and then,
Keep it simple and
Keep-
that's,
yeah, but you will still have to transition after the fact. But you'll have 2 years and you'll get the onboarding letter and all that good stuff. Yep.
I was a little confused by the description of the BC, I guess it's electronic ID in terms of, I'm in Toronto now, my term will end in March. How do you control who has access to the URL?
So this question is about who has access to the URL. Anyone has access to the URL. It's a public URL. But the only way to access the society is if you have the key. So that's why I was saying if you no longer want somebody to have access, you need to go in and change the society key, and then that breaks all affiliations. So everybody else would just because everyone will get an email so that you're not blindsided, so that, because there's potential for, say there's 3 people that have access, 1 person needs to come off and 2 need to stay on. Well, the only way to do it, as I say, in this first phase, everybody will come off, but everybody will know you changed it, and then the one that's you want to keep the access, you give the key to, the new key, and the one you don't, and then they can't do anything. So the fact that they have a BCE ID in itself does not permit them to just work on any society. Okay, and I had another question. Yep.
If you choose to become ordinary, and then you decide and you have a resolution to go to a member fund, you need a court order. If you choose to go to a member funded society and you decide in years from now you'd like to go back to ordinary, do you need a court order as well? You just go back by a resolution?
Can everybody hear that?
Go back
Okay,
again?
good.
Then you're going back again, you get a court order. Because you've now...
The court order is only to go to member funded after transition.
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think I saw another question there. Yeah.
I know that during the consultation process, so this isn't really to do with any detail that you talked about, but through the consultation process, there's a lot of advocacy around donor rights, and particularly around donors having the right to become a voting member of a society. Is that included at all, or anything around that in the new act?
No.
Okay. Yes?
Where do I find all the info about what a member-funded society is?
In the transition pack guide that you've got
It's in
there?
there.
It's in there.
All the descriptions, what it is, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes? You can't do it upon. You can do it before or after, but not as part of.
You can do it before November 28th, or
Yeah.
you can do it after transition.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I didn't mean you can do it before you transition, because that was the question. Can I do
You
it
can
before?
do it right now,
No.
but then when November 28th comes, you're frozen in terms of those changes to your constitution and your bylaws until you transition. You can't do any changes to your constitution except for the ones that we've told you about, moving things around on transition. So you'd have to transition and then file a name change.
Yep. Yes? Okay. Okay.
Okay. If we upload an e-version of our new bylaws and it's a Word document, is it changeable
No.
on the? Okay,
No.
so as soon as it's uploaded, it is what it is.
Yes. Correct.
Do you have any information as to what Gaming is going to do regarding the unalterable clause that we currently all have to give Gaming funds?
Yep.
How they're gonna,
Yep, we've reached out to gaming. Do you want to answer that? The question is around gaming. If there's going to be, you need unalterable clauses for gaming.
we're making it BC to get Gaming.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's going to have to change.
Right.
We know what that's going to be so that we can alter our bylaws going forward and what we need to do to keep our Gaming.
So on transition, you would go forward with the unalterable provision in your bylaws. Is it in your constitution now? Because if it's in your constitution, that's right.
But under the new act, you're not allowed to have unalterable. So my
You mark it as previously unalterable, and you leave it there like that, because you don't want to go offside any previous directions that you've got from gaming. If they've said you keep that unalterable clause, you keep that unalterable clause. Okay.
You can still have unalterable clauses in your bylaws.
Yes, but they will be marked as previously unalterable, and each one should be separately marked as previously unalterable. And they're marked like that because they were important provisions that were previously unalterable, and they were there for some reason. And in this case, they were there because gaming told you to put them in.
Yeah.
So unless gaming gives you permission to take it out, leave it.
So we don't have any word from gaming yet on what, if anything, they're going to change regarding that piece that they held.
No, what they've said is you can't be a member-funded society and still get gaming grants. And as far as changing your bylaws, you must go through the gaming. What they've got the website, and it's in your one of the handouts. And if you want to make any changes, you'll have to go through them.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because obviously if someone is incorporating it in the New Societies
Yeah.
Act, they cannot have an unalterable clause. So
That's
it's not a level playing field anymore. So to speak.
They
But
can
you
still
have-
put in what they were told to put in.
Yeah.
They just can't call it unalterable, and as long as they leave it, it's fine. Right? If it says what it's... Yeah, but they know that.
they know.
Yeah, we've been in contact with gaming, with CRA, as I say, to make sure that these things aren't going to hinder the societies.
Gaming's has a website
Yeah.
to do with keeping your.
Oh, yeah, I can get them to double check with gaming. I don't know if you guys, maybe this is gaming as well. Can member-funded societies get gaming licenses, like the whole raffles and stuff like that? Or?
What they've said is you can't be a member-funded society and be qualified for community gaming grants. Now that's a right. That I don't know. That is a. Yeah.
And is there anything in the new act to provide for like electronic meetings, teleconferencing, voting by emails, that
Yep.
kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay, I'll rest.
Okay, I thought I saw another question over here. Oh, yeah.
You said you sent out material previously. Was that electronically? Or
Both. Mail. The first letter the first went out by letter because we want every society, although the majority have email, they didn't all have email, so we sent all 27,000 by mail to the registered office address, and subsequently we've sent emails, and we've been collecting emails and getting email updates, which is really good. The onboarding letter will be sent to the registered office address to all 27,000 plus, which is why if that address is wrong, you need to update it before November 1st when we send out the letter.
you didn't receive a letter,
Mm-hmm.
but you received the Form 10 for updating the society.
Right, the annual report.
So does that mean?
That should mean that your registered office address is correct. But it's worth checking. Yeah, just keep in mind if it doesn't come, phone us. Okay. Yeah? Did you have another question? Yeah.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that gaming would be happy if you did that. Yeah, you can change them. You can't change them on transition, but once they're in there, you can have a vote and you can change them like any other provision. You can also put in, if you wanted instead, you could pass a resolution to put in a higher threshold to preserve them. So they're going to be a lot more within your control after. But you know, it's worth noting that you still might, they're there for a reason, and that, yeah, so. The threshold is right now, yeah, you can, but you can adjust it. And if you already have, some people's bylaws already set out what's in the Act right now. They repeat it. They say these bylaws can only be changed by 75%. So that'll prevail over the Act going down because you've got something in there. But you can go and make it, you can adjust it for every single bylaw, and, you know, tailor make each threshold This bylaw is really important. It used to be a previously unalterable. We want a high threshold. This one, it's just the number of directors. Who cares? We'll go with the normal. It can't go below 2/3.
Question over here?
You said about mailing address. Did we ask to find out?
You can just phone registries and say, can you tell me what is the registered office address on file? You have that information, yes. Yeah, our website is there, our phone number is there. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, yes.
If there is a change in directors and it's less than amicable, the director that's been removed somehow is the first one in and breaks our key, what is the procedure for taking that control back by the existing board?
I'm thinking. No, I know it'll happen, right? Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, exactly. That will have to go through BCEID, I think. I think what we would do, actually, is resend it out to the registered office address by mail. We do that now with corporations whenever there's any sort of, concern, because the registered office is, like, it's your responsibility to make sure that address is right. And so if that's wrong, then that's a whole another issue. But if it's right, then the registered office address will get the email, or I mean the mail, pardon me.
Follow-up question. What if the person who's got the registered office is the person
Then they'll get it. Yeah. So you may end up having to sort it out in a different way. I would recommend that you think about those things before you, make these decisions as to what the registered office address is.
Yes?
Because there's always potential. Right now, they could mail it in and do anything, and we have it all the time. So I don't want you to think that you're at any more risk of having these sorts of situations arise than you are now, because I believe it's actually improved. But to your point,
Quicker, if you can do it online, obviously it's quicker than mail. But if we had to do it by mail, we could always phone and leapfrog the mail.
Yeah. You could still phone, and we'll ask questions, and this is what we do, right? And figure out who we're talking to, and are you a director, and what's the registered office address, and we'll mail it. But the reason we have to do it by mail, because how do we know that really you should have it, right? We don't. So if it goes to the registered office address, the assumption is, because that address needs to be kept up to date, wherever it is where it should go. The physical address. No, the mailing address. Yeah.
Okay, the mailing address makes sense.
Yeah, the mailing address. That's right. Yeah, no, it'd be the mailing address. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Does this have anything to do with the co-op housing federation?
No,
No.
nothing. It's under the Cooperative Association Act.
And I saw another question over here.
I just want you to clarify, I'm still missing something. After the transition, can you or can you not have an unalterable bylaw?
It will say previously unalterable, but in fact, it's not.
I'm talking about one that you're transferring over.
Yeah.
A new one.
After the transition, can you or can you not have an unalterable bylaw?
No.
No.
Cannot. Okay, thank you.
But you could have something that was alterable by unanimous vote.
Virtually unalterable.
Yeah.
It could be virtually unalterable, but it can't be unalterable. You can can always be amended somehow. A threshold has to be identified.
Okay, yeah.
So if we transfer over our bylaws with our unalterable provisions, et cetera, in our new bylaws, we have to say previously unalterable bylaws in order to be changed must have unanimous vote or something, otherwise they're not covered.
No, if it says right now it's unalterable right now. You'd move it into your bylaws. Right. On transition, you'd move it into your bylaws and you'd say, this provision was previously unalterable. After transition, you can alter it by special resolution, unless you change that and somewhere mark, this is now alterable by 90% or.
Yeah, you have to actually put that in your new bylaws upon transition, or otherwise, as soon as you transition, theoretically, the board can decide, oh, we're gonna alter all these unpreviously.
You can't
You,
actually.
you can't do it
right
on transition, and you're right. There's going to be a gap
Yeah.
there. It's because even if you put in 90% or something like that, you are altering it in some way, right? And you can't alter anything. You've got to put it in word for word without any changes, and just mark it as previously unalterable. So in that case, you would want to be ready to file a filing that you've approved immediately after transition to up the threshold. If you were concerned about that and you wanted to make sure that there was no period of time in there, you'd have to do 2 filings.
You do preemptive, prior to transition, you do a preemptive bylaw that says in the event that there are previously ineligible bylaws, it will be this threshold?
No. One of the things about these, I know it sounds like we're being, kind of not very nice about this and strict about it, but these things are previous. They're unalterable right now. They're going to be alterable in the future, but it's very much a 2-step process. There's supposed to be an opportunity for sober second thought about whether you really want to get rid of that bylaw. What does gaming think? And, what do your members think? And so we require it to be put into your bylaws as part of the transition, and then now that resolution could be passed immediately after, but it has to be passed after so that, you people have, okay, there it is. Now we can alter it. Do we want to? Okay. And then you can up the threshold, or you can get rid of the provision entirely or change it.
Yep.
So could we pass this special resolution with a future effective date, the same way we can do it for transition? So let's just say we've already passed the resolution, we're gonna do transition on November 28th, Big Bang going, and we've already passed a resolution that says at 12:01 a.m. on November 29th, this is what's required.
No.
We actually, that's set out in the regulations.
If you think about the policy that I just described, I think you'll know what we're looking for here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like is there any other questions before we wrap? No? Okay, well, thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Just before you all leave, I want to thank Debbie, Jill, and Tona for coming out and putting this workshop on for us today. I tried to get your emails so that I could forward you the link when we get this up, and it will be available, the entire workshop online for you. So if I didn't get your email address and you want that, please stop by and we'll take it. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ladies.